When the Death Star exploded in 1977, Star Wars did have a future, but it was a foggy one. There was no concrete trilogy planned yet. There was no expanded universe roadmap. No one really knew what a fully fledged sequel would or could be. And yet within weeks, another Star Wars story was due to hit shelves. And it had to decide what the next micropiece of the Star Wars story was going to be, because Marvel had deadlines. So when the myth is off developing and forming with George and you have a sharp monthly schedule to keep, you don't build destiny, you build episodes. In the last video, I had mentioned that we would go straight into the holiday special, but as I'm reading these things in publication order, something is becoming clear. We cannot skip the comics. Now, we can't talk about everything that the comics do because in a lot of ways, it's just a totally different sandbox and playing field than the films. We can't talk about all the little differences or we will get bogged down really quick. But there are some important things to understand as we go forward and understand how things are developing within the headspace of the audiences. While we already had the film Star Wars and the novelization, the drip feed that people had to keep within the Star Wars universe was these comics. And they would come out every month. Splinter of the Mind's Eye drops right in the middle of this early stage of the comic run, after the Death Star has exploded and pre-Empire Strikes Back. Now, it becomes clear as you're reading these things that there's certain boundaries that the comic creators are just not supposed to go over. There are certain things that are notably absent from the comics. Darth Vader's future fate isn't discussed, and he's just elsewhere. The Emperor still isn't a part of this, and they couldn't permanently reshape Luke and Leia and Han in any significant way. They don't really ever dwell on any deep Jedi philosophy or touch the Force almost at all, as that doesn't really seem to be within their toolkit. They are exploring, but within limits. The Empire exists, the Rebellion exists, but their conflict does not drive the narrative in these early episodes. Instead of escalating the war, we get pirates, bounty hunters, moisture farmers, sea monsters, green bunnies, an insectoid priest, a town in dire need of protection from the infamous Sergei X Arrogantis, the Arrogant. We get monthly adventures because if you can't really move the myth forward, you keep the characters occupied. And that was their mandate. It's not regression, it's just a different stage. They weren't solidifying myth, they were delivering entertainment in the way that Marvel best knows how. And you can feel the rhythm that they were in at the time. As mentioned, Splinter of the Mind's Eye dropped right in the middle of this early run as the first novel away from the novelization of the movie, and where the book leans forward into a focused, artifact-driven story about the Force, the comics don't narrow inward like that. They widen outward. They play with scope, and reading through them sequentially, you start to really see their tonal range. We get a would-be Jedi inspired by Don Quixote, a green rabbit gunslinger named Jackson, a spike-shooting alien warrior, one of the most entertaining bar fights I've ever seen. Sea Dragon Riders, Sonic Jammers, Hydra Craft Warfare, and then later Baylord Valance, a hardened droid-hating bounty hunter with a blaster seemingly built into his own cybernetic arm. And when he shows up, the tone shifts again. It's operating on a different register than the film or the books. In place of epic myth, readers are getting serialized pulp. More Flash Gordon. And that matters. Because before all of this existed, this was showing that Star Wars was elastic enough to exist in different playing fields and stages. It will go on to video games and more novels and more comics and a variety show, all to varying degrees of success. But they're testing the markets and going to see what sticks. It's experimentation and galaxy stretching. It's seeing what it can carry. And this is where these comics genuinely become fascinating to me, because they do have such a wide tonal range. Is it myth? Is it a Western? Is it pirate adventure? Is it fantasy? Sci-fi? Or is it something closer to a Saturday serial? Sometimes through these issues, it's all of them. And to me, it's such a breath of fresh air every time I open them. I just love them. You can see Star Wars breathing, if sometimes unstably, but breathing. Now, in my opinion, these early issues do serve Star Wars to varying degrees. Maybe I'm not a huge fan of the Green Bunny, and obviously sometimes some of the packaging doesn't feel totally right. I love Chewie within the comics, even though he's still just kind of a hulking, unpredictable figure. A little bit more refined by the time we get to the movies and especially onward. But Han is great, and their loyalty to one another is served. We have a great Luke-centered issue. I think it's number 17. It's about a flashback when he's on Tatooine, has a Beggar's Canyon race, shooting a womp rat. And what this tells me is that even though we do have some episodes that feel a little bit like throwaway, the core of Star Wars is strong enough where this can work. And while this is all unfolding, the most important thing of all is happening. An audience is forming. People buying these monthly, going back to the film, rereading the novelization, reading Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and the most powerful thing of all, having sword fights with sticks and broom handles. Star Wars was no longer just a successful film, it was becoming an expectation. And that changes things, because as expectations solidify, so does pressure. The hunger was building, cupped hands reaching forward, waiting. Please, George, I want some more. You might be enjoying the comic issues if you're in the UK, maybe the newspaper clippings. People are still engaged in the galaxy far, far away. So when the next bit of film in the Star Wars universe was put into their hands, it wasn't something that was created directly by George. It was a 1970s style made-for-TV variety show. It was certainly different and not what a lot of the core fans were looking for, but we'll talk about it in the next video. If you're following this journey in order, the best way to do so is through the playlist where the publication order is kept intact. As always, I'd love to hear from you, especially you kids from the 1970s with cupped hands outstretched. I can't always get to every comment, but I do love reading them. Did these comics shape your Star Wars headspace back then, or are you another viewer who's discovering these for the first time today? I'll see you in the next video and down in the comments below.